हाय हाय।
So I can just use ChatGPT, right? Why do I have to attend your workshop?
See, that's the biggest misconception that only ChatGPT is AI, only Gemini is AI, right? There are more than 1500 AI tools.
नमस्कार दोस्तों, मेरा नाम है प्रदीप।
कॉकरोच जनता पार्टी जितना कुछ लोगे उतना फैलेंगे। सर ये ऊपर से पानी निकलता है कि कुछ और, लेकिन ऊपर को क्यों है ये
अभी नीचे को होगा ना।
अच्छा नहीं होगा पक्का। हर वर्दी के नीचे भी एक दिल होता है कि नहीं?
So the concept of community resilience is all around looking at the challenges communities face, both economic and social, but also environmental. And building community resilience should actually help them not only just cope with these challenges, but also flourish in the face of them. So the ways of going around that are to do with things like building on the strengths the community's already got, so increasing their skills and knowledge and how to cope with different challenges, but also building the social connections between people that live there so that they've got a greater social network to draw upon in face of different problems. Activities around low carbon lifestyles that they were interested in engaging on. But even though we'd done that, participation started to dwindle. So we had a bit of a rethink, and what we did was we linked to existing groups in the community that we could work with around those issues, like the school, but also did foster the groups that had started in the first phase, so people that were interested in fruit picking and the tree planting, to build on those activities that people had already shown some interest. By working with these groups and also the hooks that engage people to start with, we did manage to draw more people into a big group of people together to actually plant a new woodland in one of the green spaces in the village that will be there for the legacy for the project into the future. The key factor in most, because they got hooked on one aspect of the project, they were willing to listen to those other elements. One of the key outcomes, I think, was building those social connections.
Wait, how old is the new hire?
I don't know, but he literally uses Excel.
Time to forget about Swedish minimalism and embrace our pagan roots. It's midsummer. Marking the official start of summer, midsummer is one of Sweden's most important holidays. This is a celebration you don't want to miss. Let me give you a few pointers on how to get the most out of your Swedish midsummer experience. This is a day when we can let our hair down, laugh a little, look forward to all year long. Pickled herring, buttery new potatoes with dill, cured salmon, and strawberries and cream. Go on, dig into this summertime smorgasbord. No one's judging you. You might think vodka is our national spirit, but it's the flavored akvavit called snaps that is part of our holiday celebrations. However, just as important as the snaps are the snapsvisor, or drinking songs. Join in as we sing some of our favorites. If you're still on the hunt for that special someone, make sure to pick 7 flowers and place them under your pillow after the day's festivities have ended. Folklore says you'll then dream of your true love. Now that I've told you all you need to know to make the most out of your midsummer celebrations, you are ready to join the fun. Practice your frog dance, brush up on your snapsvisor, and we'll see you soon.
Change leaders maintain intellectual flexibility. On March 7th, 2024, Sweden officially joined NATO as its 32nd member. Russia's invasion of Ukraine in February 2022 catalyzed Sweden's move from neutrality. Public opinion in Sweden shifted rapidly with increasing support for NATO membership. Sweden's Prime Minister Ulf Kristersson recognized that neutrality no longer provided security. Finland's NATO membership in May 2022 accelerated Sweden's considerations. Sweden's membership brings significant military capabilities to NATO. Its geographical position near the Baltic Sea and Arctic adds strategic value to the alliance. Sweden's NATO membership reshaped geopolitical relationships across the continent. Russian President Vladimir Putin criticized NATO's enlargement. Change leadership lessons. Leaders of change.
Hey, so I moved to Sweden about 3 months ago, and one of the things that I noticed about the work-life balance and the work-life relationships were the senior managers or your direct line manager give you a lot more freedom to work in a manner that you feel comfortable with, and it also shows that they trust you to be able to perform the tasks in a fashion that you are very much capable of doing. So I'm very pleased. Hey, so I moved to Sweden about 3 months ago, and one of the things that I noticed about the
I know that a lot of you watching this video will probably fit into one of two categories. You're either Swedish yourself and you're here to hear my experiences of living in your country, or you're from someplace else and just like me you have an active interest in Sweden and maybe want to spend some more time here yourself in the future. And as it's coming up now 2.5 years since I moved to Sweden, it got me thinking, what are some of the things that I wish I'd known before I moved here that I could have used to help prepare me? So if you fall into the category that you're also sat there contemplating whether you should make the leap over to Sweden, I suggest you find yourself somewhere comfortable and get ready to take notes. Because today we're diving into 5 of the things that I wish I'd known before I moved. Number 1, being active in Sweden isn't a choice, it's a way of life. And you guys, regardless of where you live, you can probably pinpoint in your friendship group the friend that's like the jock, the sporty one, the one that you'll always find down the gym. But it's just that, the person, or maybe the handful of people. Well, brace yourselves, because when you move to Sweden, the whole concept gets flipped on its head and you're easier to spot if you're not the one that's active. The question isn't did you work out today, it's how did you train today? And if you're going to be living in one of the 10 biggest cities like I myself am, when it gets to the end of the working day and you put on your shoes and you head out for some walk and some peace and quiet in the local forests, don't expect to be the only one out there with the birds. Know you're bound to bump into at least half of the population of the town, all running the tracks. And a big thing to pinpoint here is where I'm from, you do intervals as a punishment, not out of choice. Whereas in Sweden, people seem to just do it because they love it. Let me tell you what guys, if there was a dummy's guide to Sweden that existed out there, they would need to include a paragraph about intervals. Because to the rest of us, people like me from abroad, intervals is something that reminds me of dark days when I was a child doing gym class at school. And I've locked it away at the back of my brain. I never want to think about it again. Fortunately, that's etched so deep in my memory that even now that I've been in Sweden for 2.5 years and I'm a lot more active than I was beforehand, I'm still not doing any intervals, but I'm definitely running 3 or 4 times a week, which you wouldn't have found me doing back when I lived in England. The second thing that I wish I'd known before I moved is another thing that isn't so much of a choice. Here in Sweden, it's a right, and of course I'm talking about access to coffee. I'm sure if they could add it as an honorary human right, they absolutely would, because every workplace, every store you go into, coffee is everywhere, and usually it's free. Okay, I don't want to mislead you, I'm not talking about the frappuccino that you get in your local coffee house. No, you're gonna have to pay for that. But when it comes to your basic filter coffee, in most workplaces for example, you can expect to get that on tap whenever you like, free of charge. In fact, when I applied for my first job here in Sweden, I remember one of the service you're entitled to a new coffee, and it doesn't take a mathematical genius to work out that that's 4, 5, possibly 6 coffees a day depending on how long you commute and work for. In fact, I'm almost tempted to say that the third thing on the list today should be that you need to work on your caffeine tolerance, because you need to get it up there if you're going to keep up with the Swedes. The third thing that you're going to want to prepare yourself for before you set foot here in Sweden to live for the rest of your life is that everything shuts down in July. If like me you're from the UK, you'll be used to taking your holiday days scattered throughout the year so that you always have some holiday or some leave to look forward to. But that's not really how it's done here in Sweden. No, in fact it's written into the law that if you want 4 weeks of paid holiday in the summer, you are entitled to it. So expect everybody to disappear for 4 weeks in July. And before someone points it out in the comments, this was something that came from the industrial age here in Sweden, where the industrial holidays were timed in a particular way, and so everyone ended up being off at the same time. These days we don't have those same kind of restrictions, so people are becoming a bit more flexible. But having said that, it's still more normal than anything else that all of your colleagues are going to disappear in July. Some workplaces will even shut down for a period of time in July, so expect that you might even be asked to take your holiday then, even if you don't want to. And you guys, I'm going to go out on a bit of a limb now, and I'm going to call it. As working patterns change and less people take their time off in July and they spread it across the summer, I expect to see more people in Sweden taking their holiday in June. Because what I've seen over the last 2.5 years is that the global climate patterns and the way that they're changing have meant that the weather has often been a lot better in June here than it has in July. So if I want to get my tan, I want to be off in June. And from one climate extreme to another, my fourth thing that you're going to want to know before you move out here to Sweden is it gets dark. And I know what you're thinking, it gets dark in most places, doesn't it? And it does, but you haven't experienced real darkness until you've been in Sweden. And no, you guys, this isn't me getting all dark, morbid and depressing. I actually think it's pretty cool, because before I came to Sweden, my perception of darkness was totally off. Where I'm from in the UK isn't a particularly big city by any stretch of the imagination, at least not on our standards, but one thing that is different is there's a lot more light everywhere in England. And I'm talking about everything from street lights to apartment lights to restaurant lights. It's just a lot brighter. Whereas here in Sweden, there's so much more space that as soon as you get outside of the city, you experience real darkness. In fact, it even catches me off guard sometimes when I'm in the city. I can be cycling home late one evening and it's just so dark. And I guess it's because light pollution is so low in Scandinavia that you can actually see the northern lights so often. So yeah, just prepare to be going around with reflectors on every single piece of your body throughout the winters, because otherwise nobody's going to see you. And the fifth and final thing that you need to know before you make the switch and then move out here to Sweden is that queuing is part of the culture. And you guys, I thought this was something I was prepared for, because queuing's a big deal in England too. We're always joking about the fact that if someone cuts in front of you, you tut and mutter away to yourself, you put an ugly face, and then you get on with your life. You're never going to say anything, you just join the back of the queue and you wait. But then I came to Sweden. But the thing that baffled me when I first arrived is I'm used to going to my local supermarket and getting in the queue, waiting till I get to the front to pay. That I can deal with. Okay, maybe I'm not explaining that very well, but there's such thing in Sweden called a körlappa, and it's this ticket that you get from a so that you get your queue place. And once you've got it, and get yourself out of there. But so just be prepared next time you go to the pharmacy, or next time you go to Orleans, for example. If you haven't got a körlappa, you're not being served. And there you have it, guys. They're 5 of the things I wish I'd known before I moved to Sweden. If you think I missed anything, let me know in the comments down below, and maybe I'll bring it up again in a new video sometime soon. Give me a like so that I know you enjoyed it, and if
you can get a job in Sweden from India, let me tell you how. Save this reel before I tell you about how to get an English speaking job in Sweden. You can move to Sweden in two ways. First, without job. Second, with job. If you are looking to get a job before you move to Sweden, here are the top portals for you. Get free profile evaluation, link in bio. You can get a job in Sweden from India. Let me tell you how. Save this reel before I tell you about how to get an English speaking job.
Do you plan to move to Sweden or renew your work or residence permit? The minimum salary requirement has now been increased to 28,480 SEK. What do you think of this change? Do you plan to move to Sweden or renew your work or residence?
Did you know that Amity University Noida is offering a 3-continent program, which is Amity's flagship international pathway where students study across India, UK and USA within a single 3C program?
The program is structured thoughtfully in 4 different phases. The first phase starts in India itself, where you build up your fundamentals. The second phase starts in the UK, which lasts for about 2.5 months, where you earn a global perspective. The third phase takes you to the USA, lasting for about 2.5 months. And finally, you come back to India with all the global learning into one single degree.
You might ask, what are the benefits of studying in 3 continents? Well, first of all, you get global exposure with certifications, conferences, industry and university visits, which will help you in the creation of a super strong international CV, which will in return again help you in better employment of.
पैसे से पासपोर्ट खरीदा जा सकता है?
हाँ बिल्कुल, करीबन ऑलमोस्ट ऑल कंट्री।
कनाडा कितने का पासपोर्ट आता है?
3 लाख डॉलर।
There's one place, Monaco. Multi-millionaire, billionaires from the world. पर वहाँ की रेसिडेंसी दे देते, why?
Because most of these countries allow dual passport. पैसे से आप खरीद सकते हो।
कौन सी कंट्रीज का पासपोर्ट खरीदना सबसे डिफिकल्ट है?
सिंगापुर देख लो। Now they made it very difficult क्योंकि छोटा सा देश है, सबको अगर सिटीजन बना दिया तो तकलीफ हो जाएगी।
इंडियंस को बाहर जाना है।
Millions of Indians are now fleeing the country.
I don't know why.
Most of the people aspire for better life compared to just making more. 9.5 out of 10 students don't really want to study. They just want to migrate.
कितने तरीके होते हैं अमेरिका जाने के?
Student visa, आपको पढ़ने जाना है. Next is H1B. H1B is a work permit.
बड़ी कंट्री कौन सी होती है जिसे पासपोर्ट इजीली मिल सकता है?
US, Canada relatively easy है पासपोर्ट.
अगर सिर्फ ऑब्जेक्टिव इसकी पैसे ज्यादा कमाने हैं तो क्या इंडिया में रहना चाहिए यूएस जाना?
यूएस जाना चाहिए. I know lot of people कर रहे वेटर का काम. वो बंदा $500 भी अगर महीना इधर भेजता है, that becomes like a 40-50,000 rupees per month. उनकी तो पूरी फैमिली का लाइफ सेट हो जाता है.
Give me top 5 opportunities which you see कि यूएस में अवेलेबल है.
Number 1 always is IT, फूड बिजनेस, फार्मा में अपने लोग बहुत अच्छा कर रहे हैं.
सबसे बड़ी गलती क्या करते हैं स्टूडेंट वीजा अप्लाई करते टाइम यूएस में?
एक तो
लेट्स से अगर यूएस नहीं जाना तो 3 करोड़ रुपए खर्चा करो.
140 प्लस कंट्रीज वीजा फ्री ट्रैवल. मतलब आप पूरा यूरोप चले जाओ, यूके चले जाओ, रशिया एंड चाइना जहाँ पे यूएस सिटीजन्स को वीजा लगता है, यहाँ पे कनाडा पासपोर्ट होल्डर्स को बस टिकट खरीदो, प्लेन में बैठो. इट्स अ बिग थिंग जो दुनिया में बिजनेस कर रहा है. देखो, इंडियन पासपोर्ट होल्डर्स कैन नॉट होल्ड 2 पासपोर्ट्स, राइट? तो उनको एक पासपोर्ट सरेंडर करना ही पड़ेगा. इंडियन तो दुख तो होता है लोगों को, लेकिन अभी ना इसके पहले, मतलब बहुत साल पहले, जब आपको पासपोर्ट सरेंडर करके इंडिया में वीजा लेके रहना पड़ता था, अभी वो नहीं है. अभी यू बिकम OCI, ओवरसीज सिटीजन ऑफ इंडिया. तो बेसिकली अपना डार्क ब्लू पासपोर्ट जो है वो टर्क्वाइज ब्लू पासपोर्ट हो जाता है. ठीक है, 2 चीज आप नहीं कर सकते, आप वोट नहीं कर सकते और एग्रीकल्चर बिजनेस नहीं कर सकते. उसके अलावा यू कैन डू एवरीथिंग दैट अ नॉर्मल इंडिया इज डूइंग.
तो जिसके ग्रेंडा का पासपोर्ट होगा उसका ये मिलेगा?
तो आप, हाँ, ग्रेंडा पासपोर्ट ले लिया, इंडियन पासपोर्ट आपको पहले सरेंडर करना है तो ग्रेंडा आपको पासपोर्ट इशू करेगा, और एक बार ग्रेंडा का पासपोर्ट इशू हो गया तो आप इंडिया में अप्लाई करोगे फॉर OCI कार्ड. एक बार वो मिल गया तो यू आर ओवरसीज सिटीजन ऑफ इंडिया. बराबर, तो आप सिटीजन तो हो, लेकिन आप वोटिंग राइट नहीं है और एग्रीकल्चर बिजनेस नहीं. बाकी लिव इन इंडिया, यू कैन डू व्हाटएवर.
इंडियन पासपोर्ट अगर आपने दे दिया, अपना सरेंडर कर दिया, उसके नुकसान क्या होते हैं?
ये 2 ही चीज आप नहीं कर सकते, बाकी कोई नुकसान नहीं है.
बाकी और कोई टैक्सेशन वगैरह में पैसे ज्यादा लगते हैं, कम ज्यादा?
कुछ नहीं.
एंड फायदे?
टैक्सेशन इज डिपेंडिंग ऑन योर रेसिडेंसी. आप इंडिया में रह रहे हो, 181 डेज रह गए, 6 महीने, तो आप इंडियन टैक्स भरोगे
बस. बाकी तो मतलब टैक्स वगैरह सब सेम है. जस्ट आई हैव अ पासपोर्ट विद 140 कंट्रीज का वीजा.
140 प्लस कंट्रीज वीजा फ्री ट्रैवल, व्हिच इज अ अमेजिंग एडवांटेज.
लोग करते हैं ये?
बिल्कुल करते हैं.
कोई ऐसी कंट्री है जहाँ पे कुछ भी कर लो, कोई 2-3 साल 5 साल में भी नहीं मिलेगा पासपोर्ट?
पूरी मिडिल ईस्ट वो कभी भी पासपोर्ट नहीं देंगे, राइट? दुबई, UAE आपको पासपोर्ट नहीं देगा. और उनका रीजन तो बहुत सिंपल है कि किंग्स रूल कर रहे हैं अभी भी, और उनका लाइफ अच्छा चल रहा है, उनको अच्छा लगा तो रूल लॉ बना देते हैं, राइट? सो दे हैव नथिंग. अब अगर उनको लोकल्स को खुश रखना है, विच दे आर डूइंग अमेजिंग. अभी UAE में 13 to 15% लोकल पॉपुलेशन है, बाकी सब बाहर वाले आके जॉब करते हैं, बिजनेस करते हैं, राइट? अब अगर सबको वो पासपोर्ट देने लगे तो आज नहीं तो कल वो डेमोक्रेसी लाएंगे, इलेक्शन हो जाएगा, वो नहीं चाहिए, राइट? तो ये कंट्रीज में आप कुछ भी कर लो, आपको पासपोर्ट नहीं मिलेगा. क्योंकि वो कॉन्सेप्ट ही नहीं है उनके पास। एक ज़माना था, मतलब अभी भी कुछ 20-50-100 इंडियन रहेंगे जिन्होंने खरीदा रादर उनको दिया गया है पासपोर्ट, बट दैट वाज मेनी इयर्स अगो। अभी रिसेंट में तो किसी को नहीं देने वाले। तो गोल्डन वीजा देते हैं, दैट इज लाइक अ 10-year वीजा, बट इट इज ऑल्सो नॉट परमानेंट, राइट? वो तो हर 10 साल आपको रिन्यू ही करना है, बट पासपोर्ट नहीं मिलेगा।
तो पासपोर्ट कुछ इंडियंस के पास है।
हाँ,
लाइक आई नो फ्यू इंडियंस जिनको पासपोर्ट मिला है, तो
बट वो बहुत साल पहले, अभी नहीं देते हो।
उनको क्यों दिया?
No, they were like one of the pioneers in setting up businesses there and
करोड़ों का इन्वेस्टमेंट किया, खरबों का इन्वेस्टमेंट,
वैसा।
that's the
Out
only
of honor,
goodwill
the king decided कि भाई मैं तुमको गिफ्ट दे रहा हूँ पासपोर्ट, वैसा। उन्होंने अप्लाई नहीं किया, अप्लाई करके तो नहीं मिलने वाला।
कि तुमने यूएई की ग्रोथ में कंट्रीब्यूशन किया है, तो आ जाओ तुम, यू आर वन ऑफ अस।
करेक्ट।
दैट्स इट। बाकी कोई
एप्लीकेशन प्रोसेस नहीं,
कोई इन्फ्लुएंशियल वे या कुछ लूपहोल
नहीं, इसमें कोई लूपहोल नहीं है।
So Middle East is not possible.
Absolutely not possible.
Singapore
also no. You can't just pay money and get the passport.
No. US you can now.
US you can take a
$5 million
green card.
हाँ वो किसी और बात पे बात करने